Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast. I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
And Ron, we get episode, I think it's 177?
No, we did 177 Saturday.
Are you sure?
Yes, because you made the...
176 was Hockey Bones with Dave A.
Oh, then this is 170. I thought you were doing the 170. Yeah, so 177. Go ahead, make the same Ray Bork and Phil Esposito joke you made Saturday.
Oh, come on. That was pretty good.
No, it wasn't.
Was it Gilles Gilbert and Ray Bork? I think it was 177.
Didn't Pete Peters wear number one, too?
He did. Yeah, a lot of goalies wore number one.
I bought, to finish that thought, Total Hockey back in 1983.
Total Hockey.
Bookstore.
Really?
At a bookstore up in down in Rutland, Vermont. And my mother just kind of gave me 17 strange looks like, what the heck are you buying that for? Because it was the one sport, we've talked about this before, it was the one sport that she just really did not want me to ever watch.
Right.
You know, if you can get hurt, Ron will watch it. So car racing, she didn't have a problem with that. Gymnastics, she didn't have a problem with that. But hockey, again, but her exposure to it, as we said, the Broad Street Bullies. And you really don't need your 7 and 8 year old kid to be, that's your exposure to the sport is, you know, dropping the gloves every 5 seconds to intimidate. I get
back
it.
then, yeah, back then it was
Back then. So so Total Hockey came up. I think it was Dave Arlington that brought it up. And so, yeah, somewhere I had a copy of that and just found it fascinating to realize the history of hockey.
Yep, it is fun. Let's see, ways to get a hold of us. DigitalToDice.com is the website. 978-751-DICE is the text line. DigitalToDice@yahoo.com is the email. That's been buzzing, that email. We'll get to that in 1 second.
Yeah.
Facebook.com/groups/DigitalToDice. If you'd like to get some Digital to Dice merchandise, as Hockey and Real talked about on our live show Saturday night, over at the cafepress.com/DigitalToDice, we have some merchandise over there. And again, if you'd like to support the show, we have some new Patreons this week. We'd like to thank so much for supporting the show.
Thank you so much.
Patreon.com/DigitalToDice, and Patreon is patreon.com/DigitalToDice. So thank you so much for that. So those are ways to get a hold of us. Let me see. We got a little bit of news in this episode here. We got a little bit of what we're playing. And what else are we going to do here? We were talking about, what we're talking about today.
What's the topic?
We're going to talk about trusting the game, trusting the engine is what we're going to talk about today. And we did an episode a little while back about, how do they do that, which,
the magic of
the game. Now, today we're going to talk about trusting the game. And, whereas I had some really bizarre results, and when we sat down and really looked at it, it really wasn't that bizarre. And it's happened several times to me where I play games and this is not what I expected. We go back and it's like, well, that's not unrealistic. So sometimes you got to trust the game and trust the game engine. So that's what we're going to talk about today in our main segment. Before we get to that, want to get to a little bit of news maybe?
Sure.
We don't do news much, but we got some news here. Let's see. Digital Diamond version 11 is due out tomorrow.
Most of you hear this will be out opening day, so Thursday the 30th.
This is 3/29. We're recording this on the afternoon of 3/29. So hopefully this time tomorrow, 3:30, the new version 11 of Digital Diamond will be out, and it is fantastic. It really is.
I'm really impressed with what they've done with it. They've
made some nice changes to it, some on the display screen, some with a few other things. And it's
I'll talk a bit about that when we get to what we're playing. And we're going to have Mark on Saturday, right?
I believe Saturday night.
That's the plan?
Yeah, the plan is to have Mark from Digital Diamond back on as we mentioned the last time he was on and talk about version 11 of the game and some of the changes. We'll let him explain, what he changed in the game and this and that. But it's going to be a must buy for me, when it comes out, because it's got a lot of nice things in there and some things I wasn't expecting that I'm really enjoying as well. And so and everything else plays pretty much the same, so that's kind of fun there. So Digital Diamond version 11 due out on 3/30/23 if you're listening to the show in the future. Strat, got an email from Strat today. I got to give credit to Strat. They are really, really trying. Okay, compared to a couple years ago when it was just you never heard from them, we're getting almost daily emails from Strat. Okay, sometimes it can be a little bit annoying. Okay, But, it does keep you up to date of what's going on with Strat. So Strat announced some bonus drop things, it was called, where they're going to have new and returning card sets. So it didn't specify, what.
No clue on what those are, and I haven't been over to the Strat forum to see if there is any hint. But last year they did 2 new football sets, 68 and 72. I know that the basketball community really wants a pre-1990 carded season. There just aren't any. The computer basketball game itself goes back, I think, to 59-60. Mm-hmm. But as far as a true carded set from that, if they dropped one, people would be quite happy about that. Was there a retro hockey set that a bonus one?
Didn't they redo? What did they redo? Was it 80? No, 86 was baseball. I thought they did redo a hockey season.
I know that last year they reprinted 69 for baseball, and that sold out.
Oh, they had the 74-75 WHA.
That was a new for the release, but I think they're talking about just kind of outside of their normal release schedule and what may or may not be a retro.
It didn't say if it was baseball, football, basketball, hockey. It didn't say.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so I guess that's good news. So Strat is hopefully going to be restocking some shelves. That would be kind of nice. And then finally, some more news here is from Appa.
Yep.
Appa, they had a chat on the Sabre videos on YouTube, and I was watching some of that today. And they announced that the Windows, the BBW 5.75, version 5.75, hopefully soon will be available for download. And they were talking about how that not a lot of computers, there's more and more computers without CDs now because everything is either USB or download. And so they're going to go to a download format. Hopefully, I thought they said within a week or so. That at least that's what the video said. Soon. So you should be able to download the app or baseball for Windows coming soon. You won't need to wait for the CD. And they also said they're doing on Appa Go. He said they're doing a free pre-play of the 2023 season. So whatever that means, you can head over there and check that out.
I don't know. Are they doing a projection set?
I don't know. It just said if you go to Appa Go, we're doing a free pre-play of 2023. So I don't know if it's a projection set or what it is, but there you go. So head over there if you're an Appa Go player. I like Appa Go. I just wish it was a program like either Strat or Digital Diamond or Replay.
Yeah, web browsers games are tough.
I don't like web browser games because if they crash, you're screwed. You hit the wrong button, you're out of the game. But if they had an Appa PC version, similar to the other ones where you could pick and choose your games, and then you could have the computer simulate other games, I absolutely would. I absolutely would pick that up, But anyway, they don't, and so it's Appa Go. But so there's that. So some news there from Digital Diamond, Strat, and Appa right off the top of the show. So
yeah.
So should we get into what we're playing?
Sure.
Notice how the good weather came and we skipped right over the weather.
It's what is it here? 48 degrees and sunny.
Yeah, a little warmer than us, but it is sunny over here as well too. So we can skip the weather when it's good. We only like to talk about what the weather when it's bad.
That's right. If it's not worth complaining about, it's not worth talking about.
Snow and rain and yuck we talk about. But anyway,
that's right.
All right. So why don't you go first? What have you been playing?
Well, I've discovered Status Pro Baseball. It's part of the package of Digital Diamond that the rest of that everyone should be able to get soon. And it was one of those games that I looked at a while ago and kind of rolled my eyes at because I don't, as much as I think a good hockey game benefits, you notice I didn't say needs, I said benefits from having fast action cards. I'm not a huge fast action card fan in baseball.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. I remember you saying, no, Status Pro, it's going to be a flip fest, blah, 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 blah. So you got to flip 5, 6, 7 cards for one at bat. I remember you talking about that.
Yeah. And some at bats are 5, 6, 7 cards.
Oh, absolutely.
And so in the last week, I've played about 8 games of Status Pro Baseball, opening day 88. As we've worked through some issues with Digital Diamond, and I like the game. I know people don't like the word flow or moist. I don't know why the word moist sets off people. I have a sister. You just can't say that word to her. But it flows really well. You set up to see who gets control of whose card you read the result on, whether it's going to be the pitcher or the batter. And then the play proceeds and you resolve it really fast. I played the game last night in like 22 minutes from start to finish. Now, having it computerized is a great big help to do that, but it just kind of all clicked with me because everything seems to be a logical step. And so as we play more and more of these games, as more and more games get created, you really kind of, you know what works for you and what doesn't work for you, which is why no one could ever come up with the perfect game, because what works for you wouldn't work for me and vice versa. But, I'll do a separate video on this, but I've made it work for me so there's no wasted motion. And so everything goes to the formation of the finalization of the play. And it's on a base 8 system. How novel for the 80s, late 70s.
That's different,
80s.
yeah. 11 to 88, right?
11 to 88, and there's no 9s or 0s. So basically it comes down to 64 chances. There's 64 random numbers apparently that can go with that. And I like how it does pitcher control. Bad pitchers, you're going to get more at bats off the batter's card. And good pitchers, I had one last night that had a control rating of 9. That's could be almost impossible. I was ace usually good ace pitchers.
That's what's that, a 2 to 12 roll?
I think it is a 2 to 12 card.
Yeah.
I've seen 12. I've seen 11 and 12. So yeah, so 2d12.
Okay.
Or 2d6. So yeah, so it just works I got to work awful well. It's not that complex of a game. You and I were talking about it, and you said Strat Basic. There's more to that. There's Payoff Pitch seems to have taken some stuff from it. I would put it into the moderate game category. You're really not going to get in the weeds, and everything is really spelled out for you. Once in a while, you got to go to the charts to see now what does this outdo or what does that outdo. What I really liked was the stealing. Everything was laid out. All you had to do was draw the random number. The lower the number, the better. But, does the catcher meet this check? No, the runner is safe.
I think you have to get a jump, right? Don't you have to get a jump?
Nope, I don't think so.
I think you need to get or am I thinking back to basics baseball?
I think you might be talking back to basics.
Okay.
And the other thing is that there's a specific chart for each base: stealing second, stealing third, and stealing home. Mm-hmm. And so it's all just kind of spelled out for you. So I'm going to sneeze here in a sec.
I just blanked that out, so I saved everybody.
Very much. So I really like the way that everything is just kind of laid out. The charts are easy to read. They're easy to follow. You're basically checking batter versus runner or runner versus fielder. And I could see myself doing a project like this. They have the basic version, which is a combined card, and then you can have in the cards for the lefty-righty splits. And I think I might do that. But completely playable by me, and with the board game companion, it goes.
Oh, yeah.
It really goes. The one caveat that I really am not in love with the game is there seems to be too many errors. But when I really get going with a project, I'll see if that holds up. There's a lot of error checks. Someone must have played enough Strat and Appa when they were designing this game over at Avalon Hill and said, oh, no, we're not. Defense plays a part in games. And, of course, there's the other Jamie Marshall and I were talking today during my stream. He played Status Pro football. Status Pro hockey you and I played, or at least looked at. And above the rim, that game is Status Pro basketball, except for it's base 10 as opposed to base 8.
Okay.
But Status Pro football I haven't seen. So it's nice that this. So I've learned it, enjoyed it, and we'll do something with it. And along with my bowling, which is good or mediocre, and the 2001 replay interleague. Never done interleague stuff before on my channel except for World Series games. That's been fun. So
nice.
That's pretty much what I've been playing.
See, myself, I too have been playing the Status Pro baseball. I was surprised at how fast I picked it up. I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. Is that your cat howling?
Yes.
She always has to get on the show.
That's the only fans feed.
The only fans in the other room, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
The cat's got its OnlyFans channel. Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Must be Sarah fell asleep.
Again, having it digitally where you can just click and flip the card, you can flip the cards mighty fast, and you can get through bats pretty quick, and I can see I can play a game pretty fast. I see a lot of Strat in this game. I see a lot of Apper in this game.
Yeah.
I see a little bit of everything in this game. I like let's get the split going on, but then you got to still kind of go to charts once in a while, especially for hits and base running and things like that. Everything flows really nice. It's smooth. I never got stuck. There wasn't anything I got stuck on. It's just a fairly simple game, and it just, when you read the directions, when I get done reading the directions, like, I have a pretty good idea on how to play this, and I like that when I have a game that I can read the directions and walk away saying, okay, I have a pretty good idea how to play it, and then you sit down and play it. Yeah. So Status Pro Baseball on the Digital Diamond is Digital Diamond 11 is pretty good, but and you'll find out tomorrow if you get it how good it is. But just the addition of the Status Pro
it really was this kind. He had talked about that when he was on with us back when we had him on November before the holidays, right?
Yeah, it was around then. I think it wasn't that long ago, but.
Yeah, well, it's only 3 months. It's only been, and so he talked about adding that on, and we were both intrigued by that.
Episode 162.
So about 4 months.
162, and I'm trying to get the date on that. Yeah.
So right around the turn of the year.
Yeah.
So not only can you use his game engine for it, bring your own game for it. But he's pretty much giving you another game that you can play with his game.
Yeah. Yeah. And it works great. It's smooth, and you get the lefty-righty splits on there. It just works. It works fantastic. It does, in the whole version 11. And we'll talk more about it on Saturday night with him, some of the beta versions that he went through and some of the things he changed and how difficult it was or whatever. But, I think you're really going to like version 11. So we're playing just the beta version right now, and I allowed me to play Status Pro Baseball for the first time. I can see how I might not like the card table version of Status Pro with all the card flipping. That might be a little annoying. I mean, maybe. But just having digitally,
I think you gotta be able, without the auto flip. Yeah, I grabbed the third edition charts and cards and all that. There weren't any seasons with it, but just the instructions. There are 26 pages of fast action cards.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of cards.
Good luck cutting those up.
Yeah, yep. Let's see. I also played some Stone Cold Hockey, the '87 Canada Cup. Thank you, Scott Long, for that.
Yeah.
And fun little game between Russia and Canada. I think Russia scored at the end to win it or something like that. It was a fun little game. I haven't played Stone Cold Hockey in a while, and I pulled out the PC version, and that '87 Canada Cup homebrew was in there, and I was like, I'm going to play that. And seeing some of the names on there were really kind of fun. So I played that. I mean, as you can tell, I've been in a big hockey mood aside from the Status Pro Baseball. I played the 71-72 Cup Finals, Boston, New York, with Hockey Bones, and New York crushed them in 4 games. And then I played APA 71-72 Cup Finals, and that was New York 4-1 over the Bruins. So in 2 games I played, two different engines. The Rangers won 8 and the Bruins won 1, and that kind of gets us into our discussion here. We can kind of segue into the discussion as far as trusting the game, because I was getting some real frustrating results, and then we sat down and went through it all and kind of find out maybe it wasn't so bad. So let's get into what we're going to talk about today is trusting the game. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how this oh, sorry, go ahead, the cat?
The cat has been dispatched.
Oh, my gosh, yeah, that cat was just something else. That OnlyFans, you know, I hope she's paying her way over there with that OnlyFans channel for the cat, you know. Was it M the Cat 43 or something like that? Is there a screen name on OnlyFans? M the Cat 43 or something like that? She'll
be 12 in July.
You know, she doesn't age that much. She's still got it, you know.
That's right.
But so what ended up happening is the Rangers took a pair of games in Boston and had the series lead 2-0 in Hockey Bones. I'm like, okay,
and there was nothing out of the ordinary with that.
And then the game 3 in New York, though, was 9-2 New York. And I was like, okay, that's a little much. And I'm looking at the cards and I'm seeing that, you know, in Hockey Bones, you know, the blue die, the 6-sided blue die is key to getting a shot in range. If it's in range, it's a potential goal. If it's not in range, it can never be a goal. So a lot of the Rangers' top lines, Rattel, Hatfield, Gilbert, they had a rating of 3 on the blue die. That means a 1 to 3. 1 to 2 is a definite shot on goal. 3, and depending what the other dice are, potential shot on goal. Where the Bruins were only 1s and 2s. So if you had to roll a 1 for a guaranteed shot and a 2, you had to check the other dice to see if it was in range. That's a huge difference in potential goals. And so at the end of that series, the Rangers had so many more, I call them in-range chances, which is within the range, which means it's a potential goal after you check the goalie card, very similar to the APA. And and that's how you win games. Is the more in-range chances you have, the more potential goals you have. So if if it's not in range, you can't score. So if you get 50 shots on net and you only have 1 in range, you only have 1 chance to score. The other 49 shots are just considered regular saves. You know, and so game 4 come up and the Rangers won 10-7, and I'm like, man, they scored 19 goals in 2 games. And I'm like, against the Bruins, who won the cup that year. I said, that is really not right. And we got into a long offline discussion, and we spent hours on Hockey Reference going over the different players and their ratings and the team ratings and a whole bit. And come to find out, after playing APA, which was 4-1 New York rather than 4-0. Those ratings for both, because Apple was the same way. It was giving you 3s instead of 2s, which the Bruins have. So between the 2 games, the ratings were very similar. I got very similar results, and so my initial reaction.
We did an action PC, and the Rangers won in 5.
Yeah. So my initial reaction was, wow, these things are way off. But we looked, and Jean Rattel was what, 25% scoring?
25.1. Scoring percentage.
So every 4 shots he took, he would score a goal.
That front line, Rattel, Hadfield, and Gilbert, 20%.
Yeah. So it was just, that's why they scored a lot of goals. They were in range a lot, and they scored a lot of goals. So it really wasn't all that. And when we looked at the goaltenders for Boston, well, they were making about as many saves as we thought they would. So nothing was out of line. It's just maybe it was some bad dice rolling or whatever it was, but man, you got to trust the game, and that's one thing I with those weird results, I wasn't doing it until we looked into it. It's like, they're rated correctly,
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that we looked into was there a 17-goal game that season? And while there wasn't, I think the highest was 15. Vancouver and California. 9-6, I think, was the. But the next 10 games, that the next high scoring games for they were all Boston or New York. It was kind of scary when it comes to that, and you look at it and go, well, Rattel didn't take that many shots. I forgot how many goals he had, but I don't even think Gretzky in his heyday scored on a quarter of his shots.
Yeah.
That's just insane.
Yeah, it was.
And when I did the quick sim season in Action PC, because you can do that, one of the advantages of having computers do that is that you can say, okay, this seems to be an outlier. Well, run it through. I think you and I were in the middle of a conversation. I ran the entire season. The Rangers had the best record. Rattel's shot percentage, I think, was 24-8 in Action PC and 25-1 in real life. Like, yeah, you're going to take that, 100 times out of 100. I think one of the things, because cards and dice is all a manual affair, is you really don't get a good grasp on things until things go wrong. If someone hits a number right on the head, let's say you're doing a 61 baseball replay, and Maris hits his 61 homers and Mantle hits his 54. Well, yeah, that's what it's designed for. But if you take a look at whatever it is that's off, and in this case, results, I suppose, for a team, how many people bought the 1968 NFL set or AFL set and whatever their favorite engine was in Maryland to try to get the Colts to beat the Jets.
Right.
Or the Rams to beat the Patriots, or the Patriots to beat the Giants, or whatever it is. And it didn't turn out the way that it is. Well, if it was a new game, if you hadn't been playing Hockey Bones for a while, that's one of those that gets chucked out the window. How dare this happen?
Right.
But it happened in an engine that quite well, and you like the engine and you trust the engine. And so sometimes a game is going to give you a result that you're not going to like. And well, okay, let's go through it. And as you said, it worked. The game did exactly what it was supposed to do. Now, outliers happen, but maybe the outlier was, in this case, the reality, not necessarily what the game results should have been. Another good example of that would be the 78 Milwaukee Brewers. They didn't do too well when I did 78, but because they were so starting pitcher heavy and they could hit the ball pretty well. They weren't Harvey's wall bangers of 82, but they could hit. They had no bullpen. There were reading in Strat and Appa replays is that they would beat out the Yankees and the Red Sox to win that division. Now, in real life, they were a good team. They weren't the Yankees and the Red Sox, but they were, I think, finished third or fourth tight. It was a tight race, but because the math favored the pitching in the game or whatever, we would call that overachieving on the tabletop. Now, with the old line engines, how solid they are. You're just not always going to get the result that you expect. We've talked about whether you want that to have happen or not, but so in this case we know the engine did what it was supposed to do. It just gave a very different result than what we expected. 10-7 was a surprise for me when you talked about that. Like, really? Yeah.
You mentioned if I could to go back and play it again, I might at some point. I know, but I mean, I need to go off on do something else right now. But
right.
I would think after playing that and after playing Appa, I would think that New York would win that series. Again, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 times. They're just carded so high in both games.
Yeah.
That the other teams, it would take some crazy rolls for the Bruins to pull off that series. It's just kind of how I felt after playing both of those games.
Right.
And but then we talk about, well, I only played the 4 games. Maybe if I played 20 games between the two, maybe it would be 11-9 instead of 4-0 or 4-1. You don't know. So we talk about sample size too, and I think we're all guilty of that. So we play a game, and we get all worked out whether it's a new season or a new game, and it's like I played a couple of games and these results are so off. Well, it's a couple of games. What happens if you play 30, 40, or 50 of these games? They should balance out. Doesn't mean they always do, but they should balance out. And so if you got this guy that was hitting well or not hitting well, at some point that'll average out. And I take a look at the 1979 baseball season I'm playing with Digital Diamond, whereas I'm playing all different games. I'm playing, like I said, I picked up the Strat season. So I'm playing Strat, Pocket Pennant, season ticket, and I just, whatever game I feel like playing, I pull out and I play a game from 1979, and I'm enjoying the heck out of it. And the season started off with Baltimore, who got to the finals that year, I believe. They were down the bottom. And I'm like, holy cow, how are these Orioles even going to even get close to getting to the playoffs if they're at the bottom of the standings here after 3 or 4 weeks? Well, over time, I think I'm into August right now of the season, and they're in second place. They're right behind the Yankees. And so they started off terrible, and then zoom, they took off, and they're right where they should be. So I had to get a bigger sample size, play through more of that season, and just trust the game. Now, a lot of those games were simulated with Digital Diamond, and there were a handful that I played with other games.
Right.
But no matter which one it was, they started winning games, and that's why they're at the top there. But at the beginning, I remember saying to myself, wow, this is bad. These Orioles are a bad team. How'd they ever get to the World Series? Well, it was early, and they turned it around. So sometimes the sample size is a big deal, and you need to give it some more time.
I did a stress test for the Action PC. I was going to do a video on it, and it crashed before I could do the full 162. I took the 62 Mets, 40 wins. 40 and 120, 40 and 120. They won 25% of their games. And I set them up in a 162 game schedule against the 75 Reds, Cincinnati Reds, long considered to be one of the greatest teams in Major League Baseball history.
Okay.
And then there was a couple things I wanted to test, because I really didn't care either way. Would the Reds absolutely just nuke them beyond belief? And this came out of the discussion after your Bruins Rangers series. It's like, can one of the worst teams of all time take 4 out of 7 from one of the greatest teams of all time? I don't think there's any argument about that the Reds are in the top 5 of all time of that game. The game crashed after about 135 games. It didn't want to do it. And so, of course, Cincinnati just ate the Mets' lunch. But not completely. When you looked at the winning percentage and multiplied it by 162, the Mets were going to win 42 games. So they were somehow this god-awful team that they could hit, but they certainly couldn't pitch. And I think their ERA was like 6.5 against the Reds. They were going to exceed their real-life win total only playing one of the top 10 teams of all time. Okay, that's interesting. And if you think about that off the top of your head, how is that possible? Yeah. How would that be even possible? And so the second part of that question was, okay, was there a situation where the Mets took 4 out of 7? And the answer was yes, it happened once. So if you're assuming that you're playing 20 best-of-7 series, the math isn't going to be correct on that, because the Reds, I think, at one point won 13 or 14 straight. So 1 out of 20 times, the Mets took 4 out of 7 from the Reds. In fact, they did 6.
Interesting.
3 games at Shea and 3 games at Riverfront, or the Polo Grounds in Riverfront. Again, if you were to sit there and go, there is absolutely no way this could ever happen, I think most people would say, yeah, you're absolutely right. They're not. And again, the when it crashed, I think the Reds' lead was 67 games. Okay. So, but it kind of proved everybody right. Yes, that the Reds were the superior team, and they did what they were supposed to do, and the Mets were god-awful, like you think that they're supposed to be, but it wasn't impossible for the Mets to get their wins, and it wasn't impossible over a random 7-game stretch that the Mets could do it. Is it likely? God, no. Like I said, 1 in 25. So if a 96% chance for the Reds, maybe a little higher, but not impossible.
Right.
And so, yeah, and that is, if you've ever played the Action PC games, you and I have talked about this offline a lot. They are incredibly accurate. as far as statistics are concerned.
Yeah.
Not necessarily wins and losses, but statistically, that is as sound of a game as you possibly could get. It got a huge stress test. And yeah, the Mets, it would have been crazy if the Mets had gone 70 and 90. That shouldn't have been possible. But I honestly thought if the Mets had 30 wins, that would be a success. They won again. They were going to win 42. So again, trusting the game, it's so much easier to do with the computer. And remember, reality only happens once, unless we're in part of multiple universes, and that's not for this show to get into for that.
I love those shows, though. I do.
Yes, I mean, if we all had the 17 different times, and Dave was the Canadiens fan and I was the Maple Leaf fan, but yes, because reality only happens once.
You wouldn't believe who my co-host is in another reality. It's unbelievable.
Yes, I would. Because it'd be another. and Emmy has just finished her 14th APA replay. Yeah. And so again, you look at things that, let's be honest here. I'm going to tell you the dirty little secret of sports.
All right, hang on a sec. All right.
Playoffs don't tell you squat about who the best team was over the course of a season. They tell you who the best team is at that given moment. Mm-hmm. But they don't really tell you much about, do I think that as a Giants fan, do I think the Giants should have beaten the Patriots in 2007? No, that's the greatest. The Patriots are the greatest football team of all time, of that era.
Yeah, but in one game, anything can happen.
But in a one-off, that can happen, and unfortunately for the Patriots, that's reality. That was the reality. Now, if they'd beaten the Giants 55-20 in that game, and you're playing it in your favorite game engine 10 years later, how the hell the Giants beat the Patriots? They got beat by 35. Look at the year that San Francisco put 50 on Denver.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I bet if you went and played that football game, Denver would make that a pretty close game.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the Cards don't know emotion. Sometimes they tell a story, and we did a show on that a few episodes back where it was just like, how do they do that? Boy, I can feel like the ebbs and flows of the game, and game engines do that really well, but Cards don't know that. And so you get into a game where, you get a hot goaltender or a hot pitcher or a hot batter, and that's something that can't be duplicated because it's a human thing. And, you get these teams, like I say, that game that San Francisco lit up Denver was down and out. And, they're down. Now the Cards don't get down and out. The Cards keep playing at the same level. But at some point,
are also based on the regular season.
Yeah, and at some point,
no playoff. Right.
Denver gave up. You hate to say it that way, but that's human nature. Is that, okay, we're done for. Let's just not get hurt now and just go home. The Cards don't do it that way, and neither do the Cards let up either. So if you're putting a pounding on somebody, you might continue to put that pounding, even though in real life, you might back off a little bit, So things are going to happen in games. You get, like I say, the hot goalie, like Ken Dryden in the early 70s. He might not do that for you if you played that again. And I did that. I played that season with Final Score hockey, and the Bruins stomped everybody as they should have won all the way, and they walked right over Dryden and the Canadiens.
But I think the margin of error in those quick score games is pretty tight because they're all based on a final score. If you averaged 4 goals a game and you gave up 2, and the dice, you did that with the Spiders, right? Didn't you do a quick play game with the Spiders and they won 10?
Oh yeah, I did. I think it was like Final Score baseball, whatever the Downey game was, quick play baseball. I forget what it was called. And the only way they could have beat somebody's teams if they would roll 66 and then the other team rolled 11. Either that, or if they get the big game, bad game roll, which they got a couple of times. But yeah, they didn't come anywhere close to winning their 20 games in that engine because that engine would not. It just didn't allow for a team to be that bad. And allow them to win 20 games.
Anomalies. And having the Rangers front line going back to your series with the Bruins 20% is double the league average. I think the league average in 71-72 was 9.9%. And it's usually about 10% a year. What was the other? Oh, yeah. You did the Scouts Maple Leafs opening night, 74. The first
I played that a handful of times. The Scouts give them a game every time.
Right. And you look at it, I mean, the Leafs weren't a cup contender, but the Scouts were nothing.
They were on the road that night, too.
And they go into the Gardens and give Toronto a game every time.
I played Strat PC, and it was a tie game. The Scouts were on a power play in the last minute of play, and Toronto got a shorthanded goal to win it. That's how they beat the Scouts. It was a shorthanded goal late in the game. But Kansas City was winning the whole way, and I had a room full of people watching the game. Everyone cheering on the Scouts to beat the Maple Leafs, and the Leafs pulled it out at the end. And but yeah, that shouldn't have been. I think the final is actually 5-2. But I haven't had a game where the Maple Leafs won by 3 goals. I don't think everything's been close.
And again, some of it's the magic of the cards, and some of it is that. I mean, when we talked to Dave Arlington, he went through some of the process and what he looks at, and that once you get out of development stage and people have played your game and pointed out what the flaws are in that, I mean, all games get revised. All games get revised. All games get new rules. As old school as Strat Napa is, there always are some little tinkering to this, or Apple might release a new set of boards to whatever the reality is for that. It's tried and true, and if you know it works for 90% of the games that you play, and you get, how in the world did the New Jersey Devils beat the Edmonton Oilers in the Mickey Mouse game? Now, that didn't happen, but that would be one of the crazier things to happen.
I played that in shootout, and the Devils actually had a lead. Now, They ended up losing by 2 or 3 goals. They didn't lose, 13-5 or whatever it was in real life, but they lost. But they actually had a lead. I'm like, holy cow, I'm halfway through the game. The Devils are leading in this game. So it's hard to get those anomaly games. And I know a lot of people like playing the 1980 USA Olympics. It's hard to get that to repeat,
I don't know how you could ever replicate that.
Unless you carded them at the series finale. But if they were carded at the beginning, before any games were played, they shouldn't have won any games at all. But the other thing I want to talk about, too, is a little bit of luck with the dice. That comes into play.
Yeah,
that comes into play. So I was using the spreadsheets for that. Oh, and so I have the Excel spreadsheet for Hockey Bones and APA as well. And let me tell you, the APA has I've sent out more of that APA Excel sheet, to people playing.
You gonna send out some hamburger helper too? I always like the cheesy lasagna.
I might have to, because every day I get 1 or 2 emails from people wanting that spreadsheet. So I'm kind of hoping people are enjoying it and it's making their experience with either APA or Hockey Bones better, because it works so well. Just getting the dice rolls done for you quickly, and people have got creative. They've managed to take the charts in APA and put them right into the Excel sheet. So in fact, right now, I can play APA strictly with the Excel spreadsheet. I do not need to as the police go by.
Apparently, Emmy did something else, man. I don't know.
Yeah, her OnlyFans channel's on fire. They're coming to put out the fire.
This daddy's on fire.
Yeah. So luck has a lot to do with it. But getting back to the spreadsheets, I hope people enjoy those spreadsheets. They really work out well. And again, some people have gotten creative and put all the charts right on the Excel sheet, so I don't have to have a cockpit full of charts anymore when I play that game. So that just really kind of helped. But that rolls the dice for you, and sometimes it's luck. And I got a goal from Dale Rolfe, the defenseman of the New York Rangers. In APA, his scoring range was 11. I needed snake eyes. What did I roll? Snake eyes.
It's a 1 in 36 chance.
And what did I roll in the goalie? A goal. So Rolf scores a goal. So I got a guy that I needed an 11 and then some help, and he scored a goal. And it happens. It just, so sometimes you get that luck, good or bad, depending on, who you'd like to win the game. So that comes into play too sometimes. So when it comes to trusting the game, if you don't get the results you get, or you like, how are you rolling? Really, how are the dice rolling for you in that game? And the last thing I want to bring up, too, as far as trusting the game, has to do with tweaks and homebrews and things like that. And as you know, I was huge in tweaks and homebrews because I would get a game like, oh man, this game is awesome, but if it would just do that or just do that, it would be so much better. And I would add all these homebrews to the game, mostly like shootout hockey and APA. I was making the hockey games, making a ton of tweaks and stuff. And then I slowly started to walk them back to a point where I pretty much play the game as it is. I still, there's a couple of things in APA that I still do the Dave way, and there's still a couple of things in shootout hockey that I do the Dave way. But for the most part, I've kind of walked back a lot of my tweaks and homebrews and pretty much play the game as it was designed. And again, that goes back to trusting the game, is letting the game play out as it is. And one thing that Dave Arlington brought up Saturday night when we had the Hockey Bones chat was late penalties in hockey games. And that's one thing that's a big deal when it comes to playing hockey games. And so many times I'm like, okay, if it's in the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game, I'm going to roll dice to cut that penalty chance down a little bit. Still give a chance for a penalty, but I don't want the game decided on a power play. And he made a good point. He's like, look, this game is going to give you stats. Now, that penalty was going to happen someplace in the game, so if it's not in the final 2 minutes, then where? And if you take that penalty away, now the accuracy of the game kind of goes out the window if you start ignoring things. And so he says, I play it as that player did something so egregious that the referee had to call it, didn't have a choice. And you know something? I've been kind of living with that rule, and I did that with both replays, APA and Hockey Bones, and I let all the penalties ride. I didn't change anything. The only thing I think I did in in one of the blowout games, if the game was out of reach with 2 or 3 minutes left, and I rolled for coincidental penalties in APA, I think it was. I was like, oh, the hell with it. I'm just going to go neutral zone face-off. It's not going to be a power play. It's just going to take me more time to write down this stuff and figure out who gets the penalties. And it's not going to affect the game at this point. So
and you are not a seasoned replayer. That is not something that is going to be, looking 6 months down the road going, why was he so short? Because he didn't draw a penalty in the last 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
As far as, because you do a lot of, little one-offs in short series, and so it really doesn't matter for that. You're right. Whistles get, okay, that's enough of that.
But I, so I'm trying to, walk the fine line between a realistic hockey game result and what I feel should be a hockey game. So again, trusting the game. Do I accept that late penalty? And I was. And before I wouldn't. I would homebrew that penalty, or at least roll another die to see if it was going to be a penalty. But I've been trusting the game a little bit more, and I've been leaving those penalties in. As much as it stinks sometimes, and it's like, man, this is going to wreck the end of the game, but I'm trusting the game that penalty would have been called, and so I'm leaving it in. So as far as my tweaks and stuff in homebrews, I've backed off a lot of that, and I'm going back to trusting the game. That being said, APA hockey is still kind of a hot mess in areas, and I've left a lot of things that was either a Mike Berger thing or a Mike Zarb thing or myself thing, a Dave Gardner thing.
Right.
I've still left those in there just to make the game play a little bit smoother, but the core of the game I still kind of play and let it ride out whatever happens in that game. And it could be more fun that way too. Instead of taking away things or ignoring things, it just let them have their fun. If it's penalties, it's penalties. If it's a two-man advantage, a two-man advantage. Things just going to happen. And the injuries is the one things I still, depending on what I'm doing, I might keep or I might ignore. I still haven't figured out what to do with that because, like I say, if I'm doing as played, I really don't want to have a guy out in an as played.
I'm not a huge rare play fan. Not a huge rare play fan. They happen.
Yeah.
In Action PC, I obviously don't go back and change them, whether I like it or not. I mean, fights in the stands or, ejections happen and rainstorms happen and all that. But as far as my cards and dice gaming is concerned, no, I don't want any of that in there. I know it's part of the game, but it's like, no, I am here to spend time with A, B, and C. And I really don't want anything to me, again, just to me, I don't want it cheapened by it rained. I understand why people want that. People have it. And it's good that it's there in a lot of different games. But if I'm going to take the time to set something up, talk about the rain delay here, it is like, oh,
yeah.
No, I've got the Pedro Roger pitching matchup. I don't want them done after 3 innings. And again, we play these games for pretty much our own entertainment, and a lot of it gets shared and all that. And so again, that's another fine line. Is the engine can give you whatever, and there we go back to there's no wrong way to play. But again, you got to trust that. I'm sure that some of that stuff is baked into. You can't ignore it all. You can't ignore it all. I'm not huge into ejections or anything like that, but yeah. And again, the charts don't necessarily know what the cards are going to do. They're all separate. The charts, the cards, and whether they're electronic dice or real dice or fast action cards you play, they don't know what the other's doing. We're the ones that have to put that all together. So go through our own biases to go through that too.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Is that
honestly, would 9-2 have bothered you if it was the Rangers and the Habs?
I would go with 2 more neutral teams than that. Rangers, Blackhawks, Rangers, Sabres.
Right, but would it have? But because it was the Bruins, it's okay. Yeah, it sucks that it happened. I know there are games of Strat that have been permanently redone because Sunday morning at 9:00 and the Red Sox are down 9-0 to the White Sox in the second inning. Oh nope! Sudden monsoon here. Yeah. We will do this one again. And it happens in an engine that I trust.
Yeah,
but it's like there are certain things. It's like I'm not in the mood for this.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's like this is way out of bounds. So. But anyway, so do you trust the game? We want to ask you guys, do you trust the game? Do you let it play out as it is? I like my homebrews, but in my tweaks, and I've found that I've scaled a lot of them back. I do keep a few things in, to make the game go a little smoother or quicker sometimes, but I found that I'm going back to trusting the game. The game was done a certain way. I don't want to second guess the developer. Sometimes there's a few game mechanics that just makes more sense to do certain ways, so I will do it that way. But for the most part, I'm kind of enjoying letting the game handle it and me not second guessing the game and trying not to homebrew too much and trying to accept the results as good or bad as they are. And sometimes they're very maddening results, and we've all had those when we play our favorite teams. And the other thing we talked about too, going back a few years, remember when we played the I think it was classic hockey that I played the Bruins and the Blues, and the Blues kept beating the Bruins in the 69-70 Cup Finals.
Yeah.
And we sat and looked at that and said the Blues were a darn good team. And so it's quite possible that they could have beat the Bruins. And at the time, I'm thinking, no way, Bruins are going to sweep them. But no, the Blues were a good team. In fact, I'm sitting at the rink last night and sitting on Hockey Reference, as I do when I'm at the rink, or Delphi, and that's how I catch up on things between periods. And I'm looking at the 68-69 goaltenders, and holy cow, some of the better goaltending in the league in 68-69 were the St. Louis Blues, yes. Hall and Plant. They were 37 and 40 years old, but they were fantastic goaltenders. They were 2 of the top goalies in the league in 68-69. It's no wonder St. Louis went to the Cup. They had goaltending. The other expansion teams did not have that.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're right.
The Flyers had Perrant. He was up-and-comer. But, you had these 2 goalies, even though they were old and aging, they still were Hall of Fame goaltenders. It really was. And so when the Blues beat the Bruins, as much as it bothered me, they were their hot goalie, and they had two world-class goalies. That is absolutely possible. So
yeah.
So as far as trusting the game and the result, you got to do it. And when we sat down on Hockey Reference and looked, it's like, that's pretty right for Rattel and pretty right for Hadfield and all those Rangers. They're right in line with all their in-range chances and their shots. That would be about what they would get. And so I felt better after we did that, actually, because I really I was really sour. And I was like, man, but can I be rolling that bad 2-3 games in a row and this and that? But, and how come their ratings are so high? Well, their ratings are so high because their ratings were so high.
And the Bruins really were a power play dependent team.
Yep. And so
if you don't get the chances, then you're not going to score.
Yep. So all that in there. So trusting the game. If you get bad results, maybe get a bigger sample size. Maybe it's just the luck of the dice or the luck of the rolls or whatever it is. So that stuff kind of happens. But I've gone back to trusting the game a little bit more, and just as upset as I get at some of the results, especially if I'm playing some of my favorite teams, that's what it is. The game's not broken. I'm not broken. It just could be bad dice rolls. Maybe the teams are rated a little. They're rated as they should be. But in my mind, like you said, the Bruins should be the better team. On paper, the Rangers were the better team, and maybe they should have won the Cup that year. Maybe they should have in real life. But anyway, so we want to know, do you guys trust the game? Let us know in our usual places, Facebook or on YouTube, wherever you listen to the podcast. So shall we wrap? We got the 3 stars. We got 3 stars. Yes. So before we sign off here in episode 177, we have some new Patreons here. So our 3rd star is Alan. Alan, thank you so much.
Woo!
I didn't get Alan's last name. It was just Alan on the Patreon. But Alan, thank you so much. Who's our 3rd star here today? Our 2nd star is Robert Corsair.
Yay!
Hopefully I said that right, Robert. Robert, thank you so much for being a Patreon and supporting the Digital to Dice podcast. And our number 1 star, Gideon Ames.
Yay!
Hopefully I said that right, Gideon, but thank you so much for being a Patreon here on the show.
Gideon's one of our international listeners.
Yes, I was going to say, I thought he was overseas somewhere. I wasn't quite, I was pretty sure, but I didn't want to say it. But if you're on top of that, that's why you are here.
That's why I'm here.
So thank you to Alan, Robert, and Gideon for supporting the show, and everybody else who's continues to support this show as we move into finishing up, year 3?
No, year 4.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Really?
Yeah, my channel's 5, so yeah.
Yeah, I keep forgetting the timeline. Was it in the summer of 19 that we started this?
Summer of 19 we started, yeah.
So 20, 21, 22, 20. Yeah,
we're starting year 5 in July.
Imagine that. 5 years.
Yeah,
yeah, but it's all thanks to everybody that listens.
That's right.
It really is. When we get the nice comments. I mean, people that were sending me emails, can you send me the app or Excel file? We're all commenting how they like the show and like our YouTube channels and stuff that we do. And that's one of the big reasons that we keep going and we keep doing this. And the Discord's great. To all the $5 a month Patreons, we have sent you links to Discord to come in and chat with us. And you guys give us a lot of feedback on the show. And that's what we rely on is our core listeners to give us some feedback on what we should do as far as ideas for the show, maybe who to talk to, some things to talk about, some subjects that maybe we touched on and maybe we haven't. So we lean heavily on you guys for all that stuff there. So that being said, let's wrap up episode 177. So this has been the Digital to Dice podcast, episode 177. We recorded this one on March 29th of 2023, and we had the big announcements at the beginning of the show about Digital Diamond, Stratomatic Baseball, and APRA as well. So it's nice to have a little bit of news in there and some good news. I like having good news on the show, and we like to do that. Ways to get a hold of us, digitaltodice.com is the website, digitaltodice.com. 978-751-DICE is the text line. digitaltodice@yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, we have a Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/digital2dice. So that wraps up 177. I am so looking forward to tomorrow when they release Digital Diamond version 11. Yeah. I know you're going to be playing it. I'm going to be playing it. If not just for the status pro, but just for some of the new features in the game that
it's quite incredible.
I really liked, and there's a lot in there that we had a hand in. I got to say that you and me once again got great feedback from a developer and listened to what we said, and And some of us was in that game as well. And every time I play it, I see that, that was my suggestion. That's Ron's suggestion. And it's a lot like Stone Cold Hockey, where you got a developer, whether it's Mark or Gary, that just they listen to people.
Yes.
And that is key. And if there's something that they couldn't do or they didn't want to do, they would explain why. And that's what I like, too. It's not just a no, it's a no because. But for the most part, they listened to us and things were in the game, and I thought we had some good suggestions for them. So anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So looking forward to that tomorrow. And I say, I'm going to put out some more bones. I got a new project I'm going to be starting, a one-off project. And I'm kind of stealing the idea from someone else I saw on YouTube. It's going to be third string goalie day. So it's either going to be like third string Tuesday, third string Thursday, third string Friday, where I'm going to bring in a goalie that might have only played between 1 in 5 or 1 in 10 games for a team and play him here on the channel. And so one of them was Tony Esposito, 68, 69.
It was Montreal.
Right? And one of his first full game was against Boston, and Phil scored 2 goals on him, and they were talking about that on YouTube. So, but he was the third string goalie that year behind 2 other Hall of Famers.
Incredible,
Oh my gosh, that team was ridiculous. So anyway, so look for some third string goalie shows here on the channel. Anyway, I'm Dave.
I'm Ron.
Talk to everybody later.
Bye-bye.